Hello viewers, in the series of spreading awareness about the various branches of the Indian Air Force, it is my privilege to welcome Air Vice Marshal Rakesh Kumar Khatri, Vishisht Seva Medal, and former Assistant Chief of Air Staff at Air Headquarters. A meritorious Air Force officer with over 30 years of experience, Air Vice Marshal Rakesh Kumar Khatri has served in diverse roles across the organizational hierarchy in the Air Force. He served as Director, Principal Director, Air Officer Commanding, and Assistant Chief of the Air Staff. He has also been part of the Indian contingent to the United Nations Peacekeeping Force in Democratic Republic of Congo. Air Vice Marshal Khatri has served almost all terrains of the country, including the Kashmir Valley, Northeast, and other parts of the country on various important assignments. He has been specially involved in strategic policy formulation and its implementation across Air Force. During his service, he's also been deeply involved in the welfare programs and policies of air warriors and their families. He is a commerce graduate with LLB in taxation, a Master of Business Administration in HR and Finance from Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University. Then he's gone on to do his MPhil in National Security and Strategic Studies from Madras University. And he's also an alumni of prestigious National Defense College at New Delhi. For his meritorious service to the nation and utmost dedication to duties, he has been awarded with coveted Vishisht Seva Medal by the Honorable President of India and commendations by the Chief of Air Staff twice and Commander-in-Chief of Strategic Forces Command during his service career. After his retirement, the Air Vice Marshal was assigned as advisor to Ministry of Defense and is currently the Managing Director of Insolvency Professional Agency of Institute of Cost Accountants of India. So with this, I welcome Air Vice Marshal Rakesh Khatri. So welcome, sir. It's been indeed a pleasure, to welcome you so that you can spread some knowledge about the accounts branch, which many defense aspirants these days are very keen to join. So on behalf of myself and a lot of defense aspirants, I welcome you to this small talk. Now, if I might ask you, to begin with, as if, everyone, when we join any organization or service, we also have some preferences. Okay, we want to join flying, we want to join this, we want to join that. And there are some reasons. So what is it that got you interested in joining the Air Force?
Good evening, Grupi Pandey, sir. We have been associated quite some time ago, and it is a really pleasure to interact with you. And also, if I can be of some benefit or some value addition for the new aspirants, it will be my privilege, and it will be, I would be happy to share my thoughts with the aspirants so that it will help them in deciding and selecting what career they are going to opt, and they should be knowing the pros and cons of each and everything about the profession which I picked up in the last 36 years I have been doing. So it would be my pleasure. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact with you as well as with the new aspirants. So you have asked me how I have picked up this profession, especially accounts branch in Indian Air Force. Indian Air Force and accounts, general perception is they don't go, they don't gel, because when everybody talks about Indian Air Force, it is about the flying machines, it is about the radars, it is about the ATCs and all those things. In fact, as a commerce graduate, when I wanted to join or pick up a career, as a normal commerce graduate during those times, I'm talking about 1982, when I had completed BCom honors, and mind it, I was a little above average student, and those days throughout first division was a very, very rare kind of a thing which I could achieve, though it was not a great achievement, but still during those times it was. So as a commerce graduate, my inclination was also, like all other commerce graduates or the people who pick up the commerce stream, to join as a chartered accountant or cost accountant or the company secretary. So was I. So I was very keen on that. But somehow what had happened, in fact, I had joined also in the articleship. I did 1.5 years of the articleship of chartered accountancy. And I did clear my 2 groups also during those small period of 1.5 years. But it just so happened that when I saw this advertisement and the main attraction was going to Dehradun, and that too some on the government expense. So we picked up this thing, opportunity, and we moved on. During those days in the second class train, we reached there at the beautiful Dehradun. And it just so happened during those days, after the preliminary, we got selected in the preliminary exam, and thereafter 5 days we had to stay there. And actually those 5 days stay in the Air Force Selection Board at Dehradun turned my whole psyche. Though it was not intended to join Indian Air Force at that point of time, but those 5 days really made me think to change the gear and pick up armed forces as a career. I was so impressed with the environment there, the people around there, and their discipline, their get up. Everything was so impressive, and I was deeply influenced by the environment, because till then I didn't have any military background, nor I had seen any nearby cantonment. So therefore, it was my first exposure, and you can say it was a love at first sight. So that is how and it just so happened that I was the lucky one. We were having 90 batch of 93. And I remember my chest number was 9 because I was one of the younger ones. So only 2 of us got selected, and I was one of them. I was lucky to be one of them. And finally, in the merit, I was there, and that is how I joined. And I left that chartered accountancy, that career, and I was totally with the changed mindset. I landed up there in the Air Force Academy, Dundigal, those days in 1984, June 17th.
Okay, so that's a very interesting, prelude to joining the Air Force. And I'm sure, this is not only your story. This is story, is shared by many people, right? Like you said, as a commerce graduate, generally you don't associate yourself with, joining the armed forces in this particular stream. And I mean, there is, even till today, there is not too much of an awareness as far as the public domain is concerned about a career in armed forces or in the Air Force in the accounts branch. People do join the Army, Navy, or Air Force, other branches. But accounts branch, yes, I think definitely the knowledge or the awareness about what are the possibilities of a career in the Air Force are very limited. I would say very restricted. And this is one reason why I had, requested you to, if you can enlighten the students.
Yes.
Now, if I might request you to, just apprise the aspirants as to what kind of training do you have? Is there any different training than other branches as far as the accounts is concerned, or this 1 year of training which is their pre-commissioning training at AFA? Is it the same? What is same and what's different?
Yeah, I will answer it in 2 parts. The first part is what is common and what is unique for the accounts branch. The training which is common, that you also have gone through, and as any competent member of the armed forces, you have to be toughened. And the moment you land up there in Air Force Academy or any academy of the armed forces, or even for that matter, the paramilitary or the police force, first and prime most is you have to be physically and mentally very tough. And when we are talking about the toughness, generally the awareness among the society is about the physical toughness. But I would grade the physical toughness as well as the mental toughness equally, because in armed forces you have to face or encounter very many situations where your mental strength and your strength also is very important, whereby, like, if you are posted in a very remote areas, you may be away from the family, you may be having a lot of other psychological issues, but then you have to bear with that and keep going, because the nation demands that. And of course, when we landed up in the Air Force Academy, we were first was initial few days was only the toughening and toughening and toughening. Whether it was morning parade was there, or the morning health runs were there early morning, or thereafter the parades were there, and then some education or the classes used to be there. Even during those classes also, when you are not performing any assignment, or if one of your classmate is not performing, the whole class goes for, because that is to create the esprit de corps. It was basically the toughening, and thereafter the famous outdoor practices which we used to call ODP and various other names which I can't spell out here, and thereafter the evening games and all those things. And not only that, and before you go to bed, there was a mental exercise of falling, and thereafter, and your seniors will come and drag you. Of course, this was only to create the bonding between the senior and junior, but then that may not be a physical strengthening, but that was your mental strengthening. So that was also very important. Yes, it has to be within the limit. I fully agree that sometime during those days, I would be very candid in admitting that it used to be exceeding those limits. And I feel that it's okay in armed forces, and I don't have any crib about it. I don't have complaint about that. So as far as the strengthening, I have covered enough, that physical toughening. And thereafter in the classrooms also, whatever we were taught in the commerce stream before joining Indian Air Force, it was like we had a different commercial accounting or the civil accounting part we had learned. But here it was the government accounting. And on top of government accounting, it was the armed forces accounting. So we were taught on various nuances of the public fund accounting. There was equipment accounting, how you account for the various equipment, and those are very, very costly and very precious, and not only precious, very confidential kind of equipments are there. How do you maintain those accounting of those stores and costly machines and equipments, etc.? And then you have to deal with the audit, and audit is generally a civilian domain. And when you are in armed forces, probably your mindset is in a different mode, and audit being the civil, you have to change your gear there also to align with the civilian audit setup. So we were taught on the audit setup. And besides that, there used to be another curriculum which was very close to my civil accounting, what I was taught, that was for the regimental fund or the non-public funds. Non-public funds are also very, very important accounting part of the curriculum, because your whole welfare activity, which is very, very close to the heart of the armed forces, because in armed forces, the welfare of the troops and their families is the paramount importance. So all these welfare activities are governed by the non-public fund, whether it is canteen, whether it is a service institute for the men, or whether it is an officer's mess, senior non-commissioned officer's mess, or it was the Air Force school, all the accountings which were very close to the double entry accounting system, which we were used to in graduation or the earlier. So these used to be the curriculum, and these were the professional curriculum only particular for the accounts branch cadets, FCs we used to be called. I am sure even now the flight cadets only, I mean the nomenclature is FCs only.
Absolutely.
And besides that, we had general topics, general subjects also, which were very common for the administrative, flying branch, technical branch, or other branches like logistics and the meteorological branches. So those were the general service knowledge was there. Then on English, because we people came from a different backgrounds. We were comparatively from a better background, being from I belonged to Meerut that time. So we were a little fluent, or we were reasonably fluent in English speaking and all. But there were people who were from the remote areas, from South or from even from the North India. They were not able to converse in English. So therefore, there were special classes for them to learn English. And then there used to be classes for the etiquettes, because the etiquettes and the behavior and the conduct of an armed forces is very, very important. Because you are, as you also and everybody knows, the officer and the gentleman. So you were taught how to conduct in a public forum, how to conduct in a dining room, how to conduct yourself in drawing room, or we used to call it ante room, how you have to conduct in the sports ground. So there were and various mannerisms were taught, how to deal with the civilians, how to deal with the ladies. That was also very, very important. So these are the few aspects which we were taught during the 52 weeks of our training. And not to forget that the seniors had the special classes for you. So those used to be real toughening session in terms of your bonding, or you may call it ragging, but I call it a bonding sessions.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, you've covered very comprehensively, the kind of training that one can expect at the Air Force Academy, both for the general service as well as specialized professional branch related subjects. Now, if we are to say that this is what accounts branch does in the Air Force, what would these be? Mainly, if in certain headings you can cover that.
Right. So it's a good question. In fact, I will be giving a little long answers, because the role and responsibility of accounts branch or the accounts officer is quite varied. And it's really very, very satisfying to having joined this branch, where we could do a lot. We could do a lot basically for the welfare of the troops. You may not be in the forefront in the battlefield. Yes, you go in the battlefield, but in a support role you go. But at the same time, we consider ourselves the force behind those teeth of the forces. So I'll cover that right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, when you join after the 52 weeks of the toughen or very strict or the very strong training there at the Air Force Academy, then thereafter you go to various field units. And field units are generally in the remote area. It could be 2-tier, 3-tier city, or maybe very, very remote areas also. And there you are in charge of various financial or the non-public fund activities of the station. Because you see, if we see the structure of the Indian Air Force, this is from bottom to top. These are the field units are there, and after that there are bigger field units are there, and then there are command headquarters are there. Then there is a air headquarters are there. So these are the four structure of the Indian Air Force formations are there. Now of late, when I'm talking of late, for the last 15 years or so, rather 20 years or so, there is a new dimensions which have come up. These are the very tri-service formations have also come into play. There also the role of the accounts branch people or the officers and the men both have also emerged out. And not only that, there is a third dimensions which has also come out, is going to the various deputation in civil. Like you call Indian Army for building the bridges overnight, or you go to when the civil fails, and or when the need is there to call for the army. In the similar fashion, I had personal experience of being called after that famous scam in the telecom, we were three of us were called to help out the Ministry of Communication and Technology, Department of Telecommunication, to deal with the telecom finance. And we were the part of the Indian T&T Accounts and Finance Service, and we were given the specific role to deal with those things, deal with those projects, and help out. And believe me, even being from coming from the armed forces background and straightway stepping into the civilian this thing, we all three of us who were the first one to enter into the DOT domain or the civil accounts domain, it just took few days or maybe a month or so that we took over the command of the whole finances, and so much so that they were not keen to leave us. So coming to the profiles in the field units, you are responsible for all the public fund activities, equipment accounting activities, non-public fund accounting activities. There are various regimental funds are there, canteen stores department is there, or the service institute, various messes are there. So everything related to the finance used to revolves around you. You are the financial advisor to the air officer commanding at the station, at the field unit. You are banked upon, you are looked upon by the people to help out in their financial crisis, not only financial crisis, in the personal finances, as well as the finances related to the official functioning. So all these things were at a very young level, maybe up to the service of say 8, 9, 10 years, you were in this role, and accounts officer is in this role. Thereafter, he moves on to the higher, bigger units. Those are the wings and the very big units having 3,000 to 5,000 air warriors in the units. And the responsibility though remains same, but the magnitude of the responsibility increases. And not only that, there are few other aspects where the commerciality of those ventures also needed to be analyzed by us. Like if somebody has to start a new welfare venture, the whole project used to come. I remember in Bagdogra said there was a fishery was to be opened. And there were people who were interested in the fishery, but somehow those fisheries at that particular time was not found financially viable. So we did the complete cost benefit analysis. We did that. We said that it may not be physically viable at this moment of time, but we suggested them a different modus operandi by which they can create this venture in a more profitable, so that welfare as well as the financial viability both are taken care. So similar kind of challenges we used to encounter in the units. Once we finished in the younger days, there have been various courses also. There was junior commander's course, there was advanced accounts officer's course. So there was a sharpening of the skill courses were also there during this period of 8 to 10 years. And minded, these were very, very important courses whereby you upgrade your skills. You come to know the new hierarchy, because what happens that during the time when you are settling down or you are in a business of doing, and monotony sets in, thereafter these courses gives you break and opportunity to break upgrade your skill.
Yes,
you upgrade to the command headquarters. This is a higher formation and you are responsible to air officer commanding in chief. Of course, there is a administrative head who is the senior officer in charge administration. And finally, you are the financial advisor to air officer commanding in chief, whereby all the units under a command, which may vary from 15 units to say 34 units under each command, you are overseeing the financial activities of all these units which are under those commands. And so this is a very, very great responsibility and very challenging and very, very satisfying, because all those say 20 odd units, people are looking towards you for various official financial activity as well as their welfare activities. And finally, when you are lucky enough where you get promoted, because command level tenures are generally till group captain rank, except barring one where the WAC, Western Air Command, is commanded by Air Commodore. And the moment you become Air Commodore, thereafter you move on to various units at the Air Headquarters, or highest formation at Air Headquarters. We have two directorates in Air Headquarters. One is the Directorate of Accounts, which is our mother directorate, which is the cadre controlling directorate. And second is a very, very challenging Directorate of Financial Planning. And where you get the funds from the Government of India and you allocate to the command headquarters and to the last mile or the last person in the armed forces. You distribute that funds and you manage the complete public fund. And I was lucky one to having been as Assistant Chief of Air Staff Financial Planning. And lastly, my budget, which I handled at the time of my retirement, was to the tune of 70,000 crore, which includes capital and revenue budget. And capital budget, is directly visible through the modernization which comes in the newspaper, whether it is Rafale. I'm not being, it's not a confidential information, so I'm sharing it, whether it is various S-400 or Rafale or various type of acquisitions you acquire. So that is modernization. And the revenue budget which we handle is about the salary and various expenditure which are required for the running of the Air Force. Operational expenditure for the Indian Air Force, we handle it. There is this one more side, 2-3 more aspects or the profiles in the accounts branch are there, where you get the opportunity to be Air Officer Commanding of our Central Air Force Central Accounts Office, which handles all the pay and allowances, provident fund, income tax, new pension system, all the finances related to the air warriors, which run into say around 2 lakh people of the Indian Air Force. You handle the complete activities and you get the opportunity to work either as Air Officer Commanding, which is at the apex level, and otherwise there are 30 odd officers in a various role of the officers paving, airmen paving, or the civilian paving broadly. And of course, there is a robust ETP wing also is there. And we are very good, I must say that in computerization in the armed forces was led from the front by the Indian Air Force. So there is a huge opportunity for the computer guys, those who are good at IT or those who are good in computer. For them, there is a huge scope for them also to work in Air Force and make some changes, make the difference, have the value addition through their innovation which they learn. And of course, there is if a person is very good, there is an opportunity to go in Air Force Group Insurance Society. This is also around 8,000 crore business they are doing. This is nothing like your Oriental Insurance Company or New India Insurance Company. So like you run an insurance company as MD and CEO of that insurance company, you get the opportunity to work as MD of that insurance company, because you can head that insurance, that is Air Force Group Insurance Society. There also you have the opportunity to be the investment banker role, you have the insurer's role, and you have also the role of being a welfare guy also, welfare officer also. So these are the various profiles in accounts branch which one can look forward and which will give a huge satisfaction.